podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Cardiff Central Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Cardiff Central Podcast. Once again, it's me, Harley, in the hot seat. I'm joined, as always, by Carwyn. How are you doing, Carwyn?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Nice to be recording a bit later in the week for a change, but yeah, it's good to be back on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, we did have a special guest planned, Ender from Pirate Rugby. Unfortunately, he's had to work late. So hope everything goes well for you, Ender, and we'll definitely try and get you back on the pod at some other time. So, how was your weekend, other than the stuff we'll talk about later on?
Yeah, so well, that was a big part of my weekend because I was working on the Cardiff and Dragons game back to back, putting clips on socials. And
Or you?
yeah,
That's not bad to the worst.
Well, there's an interesting part about it where you generally put only the Welsh side's clips on socials because obviously it's S4C, Welsh medium. So in terms of work rate, I had less to do in the Dragons game. So there's that way of looking at it, which is the way I try to look at it. But yeah, that second half performance is actually better than the first, but the first half performance was blinking horrendous in my opinion from the Dragons. And then yeah, Cardiff obviously was bad, but in parts, good in others, which I'm sure we're going to get into. And then Sunday again, watching sport. I had a great weekend of watching sport, but that was not some games weren't the prettiest, let's put it that way.
Absolutely. I myself actually took part in a rugby game. So so I came off the bench for Sidmouth Seconds against New Cross. Played at Fastly Rugby Club, which is on top of a hill in the middle of Dartmoor. So whilst everyone else was having regular rain, we had misty rain with regular rain on a pitch, which the best way to describe it is most pitches you play on at that level have a sort of gentle slope on them. And it had that. But what it also had is from post to post of this gentle slope was in the bottom right corner was a steep drop off. So that when you're in that bottom right corner and you turn and look up to the clubhouse, your eye level is someone else's feet. So as you can imagine, that was great first half when we were playing downhill. Second half, guess where we kept having to exit from? We did not win that game. But I mean, kudos to everyone who pulled together for that one, because the Wednesday night there were 12 people on the team sheet. We managed to get a full 20 out. You know, with a combination of vets and other retired second teamers who just sort of went, oh yeah, go on, I can try and do 20 minutes. I was one. I had a fully taped up knee, and I was one of the least bandaged there.
Nice.
A couple of people were resembling Hadley Parks in that quarter final against France.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, is that the most taped player I've ever seen, Hadley, in that quarter final? He's up there,
Was
surely.
it was either that or the semi final where I think he might have been slightly more taped.
I was trying to think about the others. Manu always loved a lot of tape early on. There was always a big, massive tape around his hamstring, wasn't there, at one stage?
Yeah. Well, you get the ones with obvious visual tape. I think the thing with Hadley is, I think at one point he took his jersey off, and you could just see literally his whole body was held together with tape. You're like,
yeah.
I believe Gav from Dragons podcast. He says he's fairly similar when he plays these days, but he does play second row, so that's you need a bit more holding together there.
Yeah. No, I'd probably be the same by now, but it'd be all over my shoulder and ankle. That would be basically my strapping.
My knees just started hurting just thinking of it. So that says it all about what the state my body's in. Anyway, so we've got a few bits of Cardiff news. So I'll start, and then do you want to carry on with the other bit? So first of all, we've got the news about Pentwyn Leisure Centre. So Cardiff Rugby are pulling out after 3 years of trying to get agreement with the council. They decided to pull out, and they're going to explore other opportunities. For the meantime, they're having a short term. They're going to train back at CAP, and they're going to have a temporary gym built behind the North Terrace. which is not ideal. Like all the plans for the Penton Leisure Centre redevelopment seem quite nice actually.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because that leisure centre is a bit out of the way of the pitch and everything, and I personally would rather see things more localized to Cap. I think that I objectively looking at it, that seems like a simple solution, but it's not ideal for everyone concerned, and it's not going to be ideal for a long time. And I think, yeah, it's all about facilities, isn't it? And talking about facilities and that sort of thing is what we were hoping that with the new owners would be something that could be smoothed out and sorted out. But we'll have to see what the facilities will be long term, because as you mentioned, short term gym is not the ideal permanent solution, is it?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, one point I would say though is the whole local thing. Is, so do you remember that season after COVID when we still had Mulverham in charge, and we were training at Cap, and I don't know if any of the players came out and said it, but certainly along some of the fans and some pundits pointing out it seemed like they couldn't get out of the training practice mentality when it came onto the pitch. It was almost like they weren't game focused. So I don't know if they the whole thing with the Penton thing is it's a separate thing. So when they come to Cap, it's game day. It's focusing.
Maybe.
I don't know if you've got a thought on that.
I can understand it to some extent. Um, yeah, I can understand it to some extent, I suppose. With so many teams training on their own pitches and things like that in off season, I don't see that would be a permanent issue. I think that would be quite a simple one, getting psychologists in to explain, and also I suppose the counter argument that a lot of people would have is you should be training to match intensity anyway, even though, let's be honest about it, you don't. But I'm sure if Sean Edwards was on this podcast, he'd be saying, well, they should be training harder than they have to play in a game anyway. So, look, I can understand that point. I don't probably, having not played at that level, granted, or anywhere near that level, I can understand that thought process, but I can't really concur at the moment.
I mean, it's just a lot of a counterpoint and thing, and it did look like it might be a good thing for both community. I know Dan from kind of Rugby Life is quite upset about it because he's with how much money that place is losing, actually redevelopment on that might actually be a thing that keeps a essential community facility as well.
Yeah, that is one part of it, isn't it? It's a big part of that community, and that is it's an important thing that if it's not being redeveloped by Cardiff, who's it going to be redeveloped by? And that is a concern. Obviously, I can understand that because it's a main part of that community. It's a big part of that local area, and that an area where, let's be honest about it, could do with a little bit of love at the moment.
Absolutely. Anyway, some signing news now, both on the pitch and off the pitch. So if we start with Stefan Emmanuel, so former England under 18. Former under 18s for Bath. So he's decided to come back home after his studies in Millfield. Young promising centre. I'm honestly not too sure about him. I don't know if you've heard much about him, but I mean, I think everyone can agree that centre is probably one of our weaker positions at the moment. So we don't know what the situation is for Lilo and Halaholo out after the end of this season. Grady's position's still up in the air, so it's leaving us quite thin there. So I think then the only other centres in contract with the first team are Millard and Ben Thomas.
Yeah, is Millard even is Millard? Oh yeah, he's just had his contract, but it's I don't know anything about him, but it's another player coming from Millfield, isn't it? Him and Sheedy, obviously. Sheedy haven't been their captain for a few years, but a few years apart between the two. Sounds like a positive signing. Like I say, I don't know much about him. Wouldn't want to say that it's going to be breaking the bank, but it is also nice to see Welsh players coming back to Wales. We've had so much narrative about these Welsh players leaving Wales and not coming back. It'd be nice to hear a bit more narrative of these players returning to Wales when they've finished their studies and had their experiences at English colleges, which, let's be honest about it, historically have been breeding grounds for talent going on decades, if not, well, nearly a century now. So I can understand completely why you'd want to go there and experience that. But it's great to see them coming back as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we really have in Wales that can offer it really. I mean, Cavite maybe a decent, they're a decent enough side that, you know, they've been invited out to go to South Africa for like the schools cup and stuff, which they played well, but they struggled. I mean, let's make no bounds about it. Like some of these colleges and stuff, they'll have these kids on there and they'll basically be like training like professionals.
Mm.
That's the thing. Yeah, but he was former Cardiff Academy, moved to Millfield for sixth form, is finished there and now wants to come home. And I think that that needs to be commended. I believe he's planning on studying at Cardiff, but that's all. If I know. Then the other big one is obviously we've strengthened up our coaching staff. Would you like to go through on that?
Yeah, obviously South African, former Italian international, Coniel van Ziel, will join with the Blue and Blacks for next season, as Cardiff Rugby tweeted earlier. Was it today or yeah, earlier today? That's actually the thing. Yeah, obviously it's something needed. There was needed to be strengthening that squad, and we'll come into that question around coaching staff later on. But I think it's a positive sign to see that we are looking to the future and building up the coaching staff and adding staff into it, because it needs to be done. That at the moment it is a bit of a threadbare coaching staff. Yeah, so I again couldn't say whether it's going to be going to blow. It's not blown me out of the water, but it's a positive sign, I think.
I mean, if you look, if you look at how well Ealing, I know a big part of that is the money that's fronting Ealing, but their pack is pretty dominant throughout the championship. The scrum caused Leicester Tigers admittedly it's Premiership Cup, sorry, that Leicester Tigers put out, but it still caused them a few problems last weekend. So it's really good, and cheaters are no mugs either. So they certainly weren't up front. So it's going to be hopefully it's going to work. But I mean, people were saying the same thing about the guy who Scarlett signed last season to deal with their forwards. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm guessing Scott Andrews is going to stay as a scrum coach. It's not said anything about him, or at least stay with the transitional theme. Because I think actually Bubba has done a decent enough job with our forwards, but maybe having a fresh pair of eyes on, hopefully get some more aggression, some more grit. My love of a bastard in the pack isn't quite being filled at the moment. Although Teddy is doing a fantastic job for that, but
Yeah, I think let's be honest about it. The pack has always been the weaker area of Cardiff's arsenal for the last, well, for a long time. Let's be honest about it. Yeah, I was going to say that, but I think the back row looks really strong now. That the second rows that we've got are a good combination of different talents and different skill sets. Yeah, I think I agree with you that it would be nice to add a grunt, someone else into that pack. On the front row, I really have been impressed with Litterick at tight head. Azarati seems to be going for strength to strength with both Wales and Cardiff, so that's great to see. Likewise, Domachowski on the other side, and Belcher's going really strong. But it'd be nice to get a front five and line out that is just tickety boo, just does the job. Because once those get sorted, that it's a really dangerous side then of front football.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of jockeys the thing that makes us remember him so fondly is the sort of first phase and two-phase moves that he's developed over the years of Cardiff, and a lot of that needs a strong set piece. So anything we can do to reinforce that. Although I would say our line-out hasn't been as bad as other seasons. It does seem to have I don't know if that's having the likes of Alex Mann at 6 a lot, so you've got that extra line out there. And then we're usually Tamani we're not using so much as a second row anymore. He's with him shifting to 8, covering Faletau. It means then we've got 2 good jumping options there. So that's
I
that
think
helps.
continuity's helped that as well. Because
Yeah,
I think you look last season before, it was switching between 3 hookers every other week. And now it seems Belcher's number 1, Daniel's number 2, Lloyd's number 3 seems to be right, that's our pattern of play. So then who the first option second row, who's the second option second row, who's the third option second row, that seems a bit more straightforward where you've got when Thornton plays, he's normally running the line out a bit more with or Seb is running the line out. And then you've got your secondary and tertiary options there. So I think that has helped as well, simplifying it and just saying, right, this is the drill, you train that drill, you learn that drill, and you're sorted. And yeah, it's lineouts are born out of repetition to be a bit as well, and reading the opposition a little bit as well. But I think having that continuity is a huge influence on a more successful lineout.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, to be fair, on ball has been going quite well as well. But I think just having someone else come looking at it is always a good idea because you do get a bit stale. If you think how long this coaching setup has been to get sent out, it's only really Jockey and Richie of the senior coaches now who've been together. But yeah, I think that's good. Unless we can think of it, I'm sure we mentioned. Oh yes, I remember what it was just at the end. So good news for friend of the podcast, Steve Coombs. So Blethyn has been they're now displaying a copy of the fantastic Blethyn comic book in the Cardiff Trophy Room, which I think is an excellent testament to the work that not just Steve but James Stafford and a couple of other people have done to just try and find a new way to present some unique history of the club.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's unique. I've got it. I was looking for it then. I was wondering if it was upstairs with me, but it's actually downstairs. I love it. I think
mine's in Devon. I'm gutted.
I should have become more prepared and brought it upstairs with me. But it's it's nice to have that. Yeah, like you say, a new fresh. We're speaking about forwards coaches, but similarly, nice to have a fresh take on history, and the way that it's been done. I think it's really clever. It's really smart. And it's nice to see that it's getting that firstly the response that it deserves, but secondly the pride of place that it deserves, and it deserves to be regarded as a brilliant historical piece of literature, but also with an added bit of maybe fictional flair on top of it, and an artistic flair especially. And it's really nice to see that it's been given a place in Cardiff's pride of place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've put this off long enough now. Actually, no. I think we've got a listener's question, which we can slot in next. So let me just get it up for us now. Yeah. So this is within talks about issue. Yeah, I imagine it's with all the issues that have gone around with Dwayne Peel and Dan McFarlane being removed from post, and criticisms of Di Flanagan as well. So Andrew Buhagia, apologies if I butchered your surname again. Please just send us a message. So he's messaged us on the Facebook page. So remember, search the Cardiff Central podcast on Facebook if you're that way inclined, and give us a like and a share. So Andrew says, with Sherratt being an experienced head coach, do you think Cardiff should bring in a DOR to work with Sherratt to fine-tune the game plan, game management, and also help build a style of playing culture down from the seniors to the right and throughout all the age groups? So I'll give my 2 cents, but I'm just wondering what you think first.
No, that's my 2 cents. I'll go into my explanation. I think there are more important priorities. I think getting a defence coach, ideally, it'd be nice to get Gethin on a long-term contract because I think he's done a decent job this season. But getting a defence coach to be permanently there and they're 5, 6, whatever days a week, rather than 2, 3 days a week and not go to away games would be preferable. I was watching club rugby on Saturday, working on it for the Dragons game. And Andrew Coombs, I thought, summed it up pretty well on the situation at the Dragons, where you've got Flanagan's obviously there, and then they've brought in his name's gone off the top of my head above him.
Paul Stewart? No, it's not Paul
No,
Turner.
Paul Turner, thank you very much.
That's the one.
Brought Paul Turner in above him, with him, to mentor him sort of through the process. But there's no defence coach there. And that is baffling to me. I think the quote that stood out for me is, you can't have a professional team that doesn't have a defence coach. And that's what Andrew Coombs said on Saturday, and I stand by that. I think that's a bigger priority. I think Sherratt has really endeared himself. You're talking about other things that DORs do, is media duties. He's endeared himself to the media. The media want to talk to him and enjoy talking to him, because he's insightful, but also fair. He's honest, but is also respectful of his players and wants his players to do well. And that's something that comes across really well. And then you add in the experience he's got behind him. I think with someone like, when you're talking about having a system, a top-down system where everything runs the same, when you've got someone like Griff Rhys below that, the academy role that Griff Rhys fulfills, and we are still working on getting Griff Rhys on. That is, I'm just both me saying that to the listeners and to Harley, but but Griff Rhys, someone who's been there, done that at regional level, but now has the experience to impart on academies, and I think that system is working well. Also, I don't see anything that Sherratt's done wrong this season to not deserve to still be the top man. So yeah, that's my short 2 pence on it, really. Rather long-winded way of saying my initial answer, which was no, we don't need to see a DOR come in above Matt Sherratt.
I'm inclined to agree with you, and some of the comments I would say is, actually, if you watch the Cardiff age race and the Rags race, they all have a very similar style. It's all about trying to having light mobile forward packs and moving around. Yes, maybe it's not. To be honest, maybe that's not what we quite need to get them up to this level, but it works. Actually, if you look at the under-18s games, that's how both the boys and the girls under-18s tried to play. All right, not the successes of other teams, but I think that game management's already there. Also, Sherratt has been, he was Dye's number 2 whilst he was there, and when coaches were stuck in South Africa, Sherratt sort of took over the side there. He'd been left behind for reasons, or I think they had some people. He was one of the coaches that Dye Young trusted to train the returning Wales internationals and a few academy boys during that South Africa trip. He's also, I think and part of what Dye Young came back to do was specifically to nurture the coaches that were at Cardiff so that they can step up and take the role. So then the idea was for Dye to eventually just to jump up to this DOR role. And, and I think Sherratt's doing a great job. We've criticised some selections and his substitutions at times. But that's something he's going to learn with experience. And actually, with successive games, for the most part, I think he's starting to get that right. I think there are a few. I mean, I'm starting. We'll get onto it a bit more when we go on to the game. But for me, I think some of the issues are more and now we're just trying to get some bad habits out of players. And you can see that he's got these players so close to being something very competitive and winning. And I'll go through some of the team stats in a bit, but it's something that we should be positive. I agree. I don't think we need to move Sherratt full term. Although, from what I heard from the CF10 Q&A, Mellon is basically working full time. He's just only being paid part time.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm guessing if he's not going to away games, I mean, having someone like him actually there and speaking to them on away games would be helpful. The same, I don't think we've really had that. We haven't really had that many away games. We've pretty much front loaded all our home games again this season. Again, another long-winded way of just saying no, but I think it was an important thing to talk about because it's something other teams have been discussing as well.
The other thing I'd say is it's a very different situation than the other sides, and with obviously when any club is especially when the regions are rejigging their coaching staff, you're going to look at it in other systems. And the situation at Scarlett, they've said that now Jared Payne's going to look after the defence and along with attack and other things, and then Dwayne's going to look after the attack, which were their roles in when they were at Ulster anyway. So that's partly not surprising. Whereas we've got that, you look at Cardiff at the moment, they've got people doing the roles that they were designed to do. And I personally as well would add, you look at, I know this is going to sound slightly off, it's slightly off the beaten track, but you look at football and the top football managers and how they manage. I can't express, when I was doing press at early start of the season, pre-season, the narrative around it was a lot of positivity around Matt Sherratt. A lot of positivity around, oh, I'm really excited to be working with him. I'm really excited to have him back and have the opportunity to work with him. And it seemed just a general narrative that everyone had. And I don't think that's changed. I think everyone is still enjoying his style of management, which is good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been one of the positive points, is that the players seem to respond to Jockey. So, and again, his interviews are always really frank and honest. He's I'm quite introspective. And if he thinks he's done something wrong, he tends to own up to it. But and he's not afraid to big up the players, but also point out when there've been errors. And I think that's all really we can ask. And he has been frank with us he's been frank with the public from the start. Where he said, this is probably not going to be a great season. Taken from where we were, maybe we're actually being a bit ungrateful for how much particularly the moments we're about to have. And I apologise for those who want us to be more positive, but I've got a feeling we might have some issues with that. But he's been open and frank with it, and it feels like he's very good at guiding you along, and sort of picking up and saying, look, this is where we are. I'm gonna talk you through every step of the way, and I can't think of anyone who you'd bring in above him to do any better, really.
Not really. There's obviously a few names, and there's similar few names that I've seen have been talked about with situation at Scarlets now, where there isn't it doesn't seem obvious what they're going to do long term. And it's the same Welsh names that are going around, but have been going around for decades. Your Lynn Joneses and people like that. But like I say, I don't think it's needed. That's the basic opinion I have on it.
Yeah. I said I don't see the point in bringing one in for the sake of it if it's not necessarily going to improve the situation.
Yeah, and sorry, not to cut across, but one of the other points Coombs was making on club was the budgetary requirements and what's Paul Turner on compared to what they need financially for the defence coach. And he said he knows that Di Flanagan is being told that he needs to save money going forward. If the clubs are having to save money and the regions are having to save money, then spending a fortune on a DOR that is possibly not needed, I don't really see where that's going to benefit.
I said I do think it might be different with the Dragons, because I do feel like that guy does need a little bit of help through words. I feel like I think Jockey's been sort of coached into being a head coach. He's been given a lot more of those opportunities, because I think Di Flanagan sort of came over to the Dragons to be an assistant coach, then shit hit the fan, and now he's head coach. And maybe he wasn't quite where he wanted to be there. But I said, we could just go around in circles and basically saying it's a very different situation.
Yeah,
but we don't
what I will say about that is, I would say the more pressing priority is they need a defence coach on the weekend performance. There we go. That's my point. That's my point.
Boy, do they need a new defence coach?
And that's not me. The stats said it all. So I don't think there's much need. 39 missed tackles, 21 of which were in the first half or something like that.
At one point, they were missing one tackle for every two they made. I don't want to go. Seriously,
We're not bashing.
Dragon's
We're
Lair
not
has done
bashing, but
enough of a post-mortem of that game. But I mean, was it a try within the first? Was it the fastest ever URC try as well? That's
it
saying
wasn't
you don't want to
quite.
be.
I don't think it was quite the fastest URC try, but it was up there.
Certainly the fastest this season.
Oh yeah, sorry, this season, yeah, it was
Certainly the
33
fastest
seconds.
season. I can't remember if it's fastest ever. And I can't imagine
No,
one
I
much
think
quicker.
I think there was one quicker. I'm trying to remember. It was said on Club as well, and the whoever it was, which escapes me, but Catch and Heather did try and ask the question to Coombs and Dan Evans, but they couldn't. They couldn't. Interestingly, couldn't know who that was, because I'm pretty sure it was another Scotsman. But yeah, we digress. We seem to be avoiding talking about the games.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go. I thought, shall we warm up then? So we'll go with some of the 3-word reactions we had after the game. So these are the ones directly to the page. I'll be honest, there were a lot on the Cardiff Rugby fan page. I'm not reading any of them out, mostly because most of them were much longer than 3 words. And we do ask for it, try and keep it snappy, and some of them around a topic which I'm not. We'll go into later. So Andrew says brave but frustrating. We've got stop whistling ref, static taking ball, which is their one. Red room game, again, disagree. Actually, I think of anything up. Right, and then from the Twitterers, we have Tony, who's always commenting, and we very much welcome for that. Poor execution again. Gareth McGilvray, discipline, boys, discipline. Someone called Dr. Harley Worthy commented, game management, boys. Don't know who that is. Sounds like an idiot. Rob Hill blew it again. Rob Williams, game management errors. I think there's a theme going on there. I don't know what you'd think about that.
Yeah, it's a theme we've heard plenty of times, isn't it? Let's be honest about it. We will get into the red card, but I thought the disappointing thing for me was the first 14 minutes actually, prior to the red card, because actually I thought that was a really slow start by Cardiff standards, because Cardiff have been coming out of the blocks really well. I thought that was a slow start. Let Connacht into the game quite nicely. Connacht got settled really a lot quicker than Cardiff did, even though there weren't any scores. And yeah, I got to be honest, the first half was a bit of a drag, but I think it was already a bit of a drag before the red card. So I don't quite concur with the red ruined game. And then yeah, game management end of the game is something that's been a point continuously made throughout the season. We've made it continuously throughout the season. I can't pinpoint one moment where I thought, that's poor game management. I must be honest. There wasn't something that I went, that was bad. I'm sure Harley has one or two, but that wasn't it. For me, it wasn't that, but it was just a general
one
feeling
major one.
Yeah,
there was one major game management, and then I think it's well, there were a couple of other instances, but there's one very stark, obvious one. So we are 7-3 up. We receive a kickoff. We're around 22, 30 seconds left to go, and Ellis Bevan shapes the box kick. We infringe at the ruck then. We go in 7-6. When really what we needed was another face. And it looked like the forwards behind him, who he then Bevan calls into the ruck to make the caterpillar, were there ready to make this ruck. And that was infuriating. The other one, because it happened a couple of times, is a bit of kick tennis. We were probably losing the kick battle. We're on the edge. Really, what we need to do is boot it out. And instead, what happened is, one of the players, I don't know if it was necessarily Beetham or Lane, you'd have Beetham Lane, or one of the other wing. Lane, who I thought did a very good job covering wing and 13 for 65 minutes. But he did have a couple of brain farts. I just, I don't want to go much worse than that, but one of them was he caught the ball. What he needed to do was boot it, but instead holds it for a few seconds, then passes to De Beer as the Connacht chase comes up to De Beer, and De Beer gets charged down. When really what we need to do is just boot that straight away. But it wasn't just him; it did happen a few times where the Connacht chase was excellent most of that game. They just didn't quite boot it back, and a few of those moments, I feel like if cooler heads or better game management, we'd have just cleared ahead and it gone fine. But I thought for the most part we played that game really well. I,
I just say on the Alice Bevan one because I'd forgotten about that. But that is one that frustrates me because referees are so. If you're doing that 2-3 phases and just trying to kill the clock, I think ever since it reminds me. Do you remember Wales 2005 Grand Slam just closing out games from like 10 minutes out just with 1 or 2 phases? And ever since then, teams seem to have been penalised for that, and especially recently with the staying on your feet and that the mandate that they have on making sure players stay on their feet towards the end of the game.
well,
But
it cost us a Grand Slam. If you think about the 2021 game against France and Liam Williams I think it's no, so I think it might have been Corey Hill gets penalised because he seals off so slowly as we're trying to kill the game, and then France
yeah,
managed to score in the end and take the win.
but I think you've got to just when it's one phase, you've got to say to yourself, do you back yourself to do it sensibly? I think you've got to back yourself to do it sensibly. That's my thinking. I think, yeah, that one was frustrating end of first half, and that seems to be a theme, isn't it?
I think if it'd been a minute or two, then it's but because it was 30 seconds and like 15 seconds by the time he actually kicks the ball, that one more phase probably gives us half time. But
Yeah.
I said because Connacht then get the ball, we didn't really chase very well because I don't think anyone's expecting him to kick. They sort of can get some momentum. But it says that it was a 4-point game. I think I wrongly remembered the score as 14-16, not 12-16. Yeah, that was one thing that was a common thing I saw on some of the Facebook groups is people moaning about De Beers place kicking again, which unfortunately I think it's a bit unfair because I think he actually had a very good game despite being on one leg for quite a lot
Yeah,
of it.
I didn't think it was his strongest game, I must be honest.
It's not his best, but I think he did well, especially when he was hobbling through most of it.
Yeah, he was hobbling through most of it. The place kicking is I think it's harsh. I got to be honest. I didn't look at that and think, oh God, he's missed the sitter there.
I mean, it was fairly wide out. I mean, it wasn't like right on the touchline, but still, and it was horrid conditions. Yeah, like Cat is not the sort of place I would have wanted to play rugby.
No,
And
no.
as I said, I've played it on top of the hill in Dartmoor. I didn't want to play it there, to be honest. So I was second guessing I was questioning my life choices of that. But yeah,
The other moment I will say is Tamani's yellow card. I thought that was just a bit cheap to give away. I thought it was just a bit cheap and I know it sounds bad, but cheap and obvious. Like Caelan Blade is going to do what Caelan Blade did. He's that sort of 9. He's going to nip round the side. So you've got to be more ready for it rather than grasping at thin air. And that's what leads to the yellow card. I didn't think it was as bad as it maybe looked, but I can understand why a yellow card was given. But yeah, I thought that was a bit cheap from a bit naive, really, especially from a player who's nearer 40 than he is 25. So yeah, that was the other bit of not game management as such, but game nous is probably the phrase.
yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where I think if we'd been winning more games, then mistakes we probably wouldn't necessarily have made. And I think we'd close that game out a bit better.
Hmm.
Uh,
And
it's not really.
that's the other thing is people are talking about kicking the ball away with less than a minute to go and things like that. You look at the Ospreys game where Jack Walsh puts in one of the most baffling kicks of all time when it bounces the right way, Stockdale carries it into touch, and you go, oh, it's a great bit of tactical play by Ospreys, and then they go and slot a drop goal from 40 yards, and they they're making their own luck at the moment. The bouncer ball is going the right way. They've won 5 on the bounce. They get the interception. They get a decision which I know Dan McFarlane was a bit miffed about, but honestly, that can do when that rant at the end
he
of
was
the game.
onside. Yeah,
but that's by the by. But my main point is they're making their own luck, whereas Cardiff don't seem to be able to get that one win over the bounce, to get that rolling momentum and get that luck bouncing the right way. And It's just a little bit, and maybe there's a lack of faith they're getting in there. Maybe there's a lack of faith of thinking that you can turn these close games into wins, and it needs something to just turn the right way for them, or a bit of a message to get through to them that yes, these are winnable games that can be won, and this is how to do it. Which I'm sure will happen. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way Ospreys playing does remind me of Wales in like 2019, and actually a very classic Gatton Wales is, they will just keep trying the same things, and they'll make their own luck and they'll win. And it's something that just when you start winning and you start believing in what you're doing. All right, it's not the prettiest rugby. I mean, that Ospreys Ulster game was absolutely turgid to watch.
Oh, it's good, diabolical.
But I'd have taken that. If that had been us, if we'd been on that side of the scoreline, I'd have taken it. Right now, sitting on, was it three wins all season? Admittedly, only 2 games we've lost by more than 7. But I'd have taken it. Just to have the actual win on the board.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially when you think about the team, like the one team. No disrespect to the Dragons, but I mean, I'm going to disrespect the Dragons here. The only team really that we've beaten this season are Stormers. And you think they're a team that are URC playoff teams, and it wasn't a particularly weakened Stormers side, or it wasn't their strongest, but it was one and they were towards the end of their tour. But still, we were able to beat them. We were able to stay toe to toe with the Bulls for thing. We're staying in these games, and it's just like surely just by laws, by chance, one of these games have gone our way. Maybe that is what Stormers game was, but it's just getting really frustrating now. Just being like, I mean, I'm getting fed up on the rap chat of getting the, but at least just restoring pride in Welsh rugby, and it's like, fuck off. Please just fuck off.
I'm less frustrated about it, more just thinking the tide needs to turn. I think that's my main feeling, and just need a bit of confidence. I think just to see out a game. I hope it comes before next season. But if it takes a next season, not reset, but mini mindset change, just to say, right, this is how you see out a game from this position, and successfully do that, and then replicate it, and then replicate it again. The position Cardiff could be in this season is brilliant, but they're not there for a reason, and they need to turn those losses into wins. In short, basically.
I said just sort of one bit of perspective on why I think that game weirdly that's actually probably one of our worst games. Right, so basically these are against all 16 teams in the URC. So we scored 2 tries. That's like joint 8th in the way they sort of placing it. Overall, we're 5th. We're 5th with an average of 3.1 tries a game. So we're a bit under there. So no, we're not quite at 4. We've been able to get those. I do think though, with the tries scored and the points scored, the Dragons game really skews the average for us. Probably need to have a look at something like the median or whatever. So we scored 12 points, which is the 13th highest. But then on average, we score 23.9 a game, which is 5th. But actually, no, that, to be fair, sounds a bit more. That does sound quite right, because most games we do score about 20. That's one between like 20, 25. Problem is the other team score about 30. Carries. So we were the bottom for meters made. We made 194, and we were 12th. So 167 meters, 94 carries, which was 12th. Overall, we're 110. We make 110 carries a game, which is 7th, and 364 meters, which is about 6th. So we haven't really made many meters there.
Yeah.
One thing we are good on is so joint first turnovers won this round with 8, 5 of which go into Thomas Williams, which is, according to URC stats, which I'd like to thank the URC for giving us access to their all their statistics, is an out and out best performance. Opta disagree and say it's 4, which would make it the joint best this season.
Just one quick thing, that was Thomas Thomas Young, not Thomas Williams, as you just said.
Thomas Young, yes. Thomas Young, yes. It's exactly what I said. And anyone who says differently weren't listening. No. But so we got 8 turnovers this round, which joint top. Weirdly, the Dragons had 8 turnovers in their game, which we're first overall with 7.4. Just as a point of context, Connacht got 7 breakdown turnovers, and then I think a few more at the line out as well. We averaged 2 points per visit to the 22, which was better than Connacht's. So we basically scored 20. We managed to get into the Connacht 22 6 times, but only came away with 12 points. Maybe should have been 14 with that. Connacht averaging 1.8, but normally we're averaging about 3 points per visit to the 22, which would put us in about 5th on average. So again, not really our great. And yeah, we kick a lot. We kick more than anyone else in the USA. I don't think that's an unusual stat. Doesn't say really. I haven't got a breakdown of the sort of kicks we use, but we do also tend to kick for the most meters. But they're like the key stats, really. I mean, this wasn't a good game for us. Just on the numbers, it didn't feel that much. I know the Connacht supporters are really annoyed because they feel like they should have really put the foot on the throat in down to 13 men. And I said again, kudos to Owen Lane, because I know wet conditions probably didn't mean that we're going to be flinging it. Teams are going to be flinging it wide, but still, to cover 13 and win is a very hard job, especially for someone who doesn't really play 13 that much anymore.
Yeah, I think to be honest about it, a lot of those stats, the meters made, that's not surprising against one, a Connacht side that like keeping the ball, but two, when you're playing with 14 men, that's not surprising. I think the turnover stat again, that's one, Thomas Young being brilliant on the night. He was absolutely superb, fully deserved his player of the match award. I thought he was by far the best player on the park. But additionally, it's something you go into this sort of siege mentality and play and try and jackal for the ball and attempting these things more when you're down a man, because logistically wise and defense wise, you're going to be stretched defensively, so you've got to take advantage of slowing down the ball. You've got to take advantage of trying to turn the ball over, to get lineouts, to get set pieces, to get that sort of set piece systems going, and basically to get some momentum in the game somehow through the pack, especially when you've got an 8 in the pack and you can go level to level. But stats, I'm a bit more laissez-faire with my lack of stats. I think watching that game on the weekend, the slow start was the thing that really frustrated me, I mentioned before. But then I really liked the response to the red card. I thought, brilliant. How good was that response? Going back and scoring a try straight away. Ben Thomas and Thomas Young performing so well. But moving forward in that game, then parts just didn't quite gel as they should have. I think it's hard playing against Connacht with 14. It really is, because they just throw the ball around so well.
I mean, I do think the weather did help limit that a bit, so that was quite handy. I thought things were a bit. I think we handled it very well. Jockey even said in the things, with the red card, we had to change the way we kicked, and we couldn't do the kicking we wanted to because we couldn't really go for contestables because it leaves you too far open. We couldn't. Interestingly, he said that we can't use the break. We didn't go as hard at the breakdown as we wanted to, and we still got 8 turnovers. So I think that's that could have been interesting. And things like the attacking plans and shapes. I know Lilo's. We always have him popping up on the wing, or he cuts nice angles and stuff. But there's, it's a bit. I mean, yeah, it's a bit annoying. I feel like it's another one we could have won but didn't. But I mean, I'm saying this pretty much every week now, so I might just do it. I might just clip a little bit and I can just insert it into the podcast. the next few weeks.
It is a
Um,
little bit the same, isn't it? Yeah,
so
and that's
a couple of people making a big deal of the internationals being away. I'm not sure. As good as the players who could come back in, I don't think there's any real facet of the game they necessarily would improve. Maybe Mason Grady coming on the wing just for the impact and him, being past, literally putting the ball in his hands and letting him run. But I don't know. I mean, I know Thomas would have probably. Thomas has made the exact same mistakes this season as well, not mistakes, but that thing with the Rutgers pair. And because I feel like the team that put out played as well as you know. It's not like we were battered up front really. So we didn't. Our defense wasn't too bad.
the one thing I'd add to that is there was a noticeable depth issue, I would say. Not issues is too strong a word. Apologies for that, but you noticed when the bench came on, when Jared Butler especially came on for Connacht, he added a real lot of impetus, good ball carrying, bit of know-how, line speed. He was brilliant off the bench, and I think that was lacking a little bit. I would also say first half going to the line out and going to Shane Hughes all the time seemed to be worked out a lot too quickly. And then it took the halftime change to think, right, let's go to Seb. I think it should have been a bit simpler, and maybe if you've got Teddy in that 23 or at least on the starting 15, that's eked out a bit more. But again, this is international window. It's just what happens. You've got to take it with the punches. We said it last week it was going to be difficult against Connacht because Connacht don't lose many players and have that continuity week in, week out. That's nothing new. There's nothing new. So yeah, there's two sides to it really. You've still got a side that are going to be the backbone of the team for the rest of the season, plus and going forward into next season. So I don't quite get the narrative of it was down to international players missing. It just is how it is, I think, as well.
I mean, I suppose with the depth thing, if you had Domachowski available, then you're not expecting Carey to try to do, because I'm pretty sure he did another 80-minute stint. I don't think Barrett came on, or if he did, I didn't.
Yeah, he didn't.
And
I was
that's
surprised
happened
about that.
before. And Charrett's been very reluctant to use anyone other than Domachowski or Carey, and then if one of them's unavailable, then the other one does the full 80, and maybe that would have helped. And maybe, because I thought actually Will Davis-King played very well. And I don't think Kieran Parker did anything horrifically wrong. I don't think he set the world on fire. Then again, if Littrick wasn't it, I feel like Littrick being injured was more necessary, was probably as much of a loss as Azarati. And you're always going to have injured players.
It's the two combined, isn't it? It's the two
Yeah,
combined.
I mean, if we had the pair of them, that's another thing. And maybe the scrum was a lot more of a weapon.
Yeah. I think Parker. What I think will say for Parker, and I'm so glad he had another opportunity because it had been a long time since that red. So,
and to be fair, I think because he served his ban, but then I think because you had Azarati and Littrick playing so well, you just weren't going to stop any. They were both going to keep playing.
Yeah.
I said, yeah. I mean, Evan Lloyd, he was released. I'm pretty sure he was, but then you've got Belcher and Daniel, so I don't think. I think with impact, I think the problem with this is we had one of our big impacts off the bench quite early on with Mackenzie Martin coming on so early for new signing, who it got announced with the team sheet because it was like, oh, here's a player you've not heard of, but we best say we've signed him then, Ben Donald, former London Irish, Gloucester, back 5 forward, I believe he's pegged as. So, so it kind of makes sense that we were quite limited with how we did our lineouts because we had a new component to it, and then when Big Mac comes on, he's not really a lineout jumper either.
No, he's a player that is hopefully long term is going to excite because he's a big lump and what is he 6'4", 6'5", I think Sherratt said pre-match, and that he can shift as well. So that's a good. It fits into the Cardiff philosophy of what's needed. That line-out jumper in the back row is never to be shirked at or looked at in the wrong way. And with the situation with certain players for next season. Maybe, thinking Tamani, thinking Turnbull possibly, whether or not they're going to be around that much longer. So it's a good signing, I think.
I say because we've not really seen Turnbull a lot, and I feel almost like maybe he would have been quite useful in those last 10 minutes. You remember we were leading up to the 71st, 72nd minute.
Yeah, because isn't one of his only games this season, Turnbull, is the game against Stormers where he came off the bench?
I think he came off the bench then, and he started a couple of others.
Hmm.
And but then you're not going to get that experience without playing. So, and again, Ellis Jenkins as well. I don't know if he's picked up another injury or what.
He had. So yeah, I think Jenkins had picked up another slight knock, so that's not ideal, obviously, but it is what it is with Ellis. Unfortunately, with injuries, he's not had any luck at all, has he, with injuries throughout throughout his career, but this season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really have too much more to say about this game. I don't know about you. Should we move on to? I mean, we were hoping to preview this with an Irish guest, but obviously that's not better. So should we go on to Ireland week? First of all, just want to do a little bit of under 20s. So they're playing tomorrow night as we record. 8 o'clock kickoff or 7:30? I can't remember.
Ooh, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure.
Why should do that? Anyway, I imagine that'll be on BBC Wales or maybe S4C. I don't know if they do the under 20s or if it's just BBC Wales.
7:15.
Well, 7:15 kickoff, right? I'm glad you told me that because I would have completely missed it. Anyway, so as far as Cardiff Cardiff interest, Harry Weld and continuing on in the 10 jersey, and Lucas De La Rua is getting his third start in a different back row position. So he's packing down at 8 because I believe Morgan Morse took a bit of a knock against Ulster, or even that was just being rested.
Being rested.
But either way,
yeah, he's given an opportunity to stay at Ospreys and rest, I think, is the official line.
To be fair, he's played a lot for what was effectively a young man. But yeah, so Lucas De La Rua getting to show what he can do at the base of the scrum. Talking to Dan from Telephone Life, he says that he basically switched across the back row, and he sees him as our next Jim Botham, our next Navidi Jim Botham type player who can cover. So that's can be a good experience for him. And again, something with not knowing about Tamani and Fanato as well. I believe his contract's due up at the end of the season. I'm not entirely sure what the details of his deal are. Having extra having some more players who can cover 8 and 6 of that, especially is a good thing. So main Wales squad, 8 Blue and Blacks plus former Cardiff boy Dylan Lewis and former academy Ewan Lloyd. So it's not really a lot to say. I think we were expecting 7 of these 8. But maybe one of the ones on the bench was maybe a bit of a welcome bolt out of the blue.
Yeah, it's a great story as well from the boy from Ely. There was some talk a few weeks ago about how many other Ely players, boys from Ely have made it in rugby. Phil Steele is one of their alumni, and that's obviously he's probably more known for his commentary than anything else nowadays, and his bits on Scrum 5. But obviously a great story with Mackenzie. He's played so well this season, and it's easy, I suppose, outside the Cardiff bubble to forget how well he's performed when all the talk's been about Morgan Morse as well and his performances for the under-20s and Morgan Morse as well, the try against Cardiff. But Mackenzie's been brilliant. He's been a breath of fresh air. That first 20 minutes performance or whatever it was when he came on and did brilliantly. For me, I'm excited by his opportunity off the bench. I think with Mackenzie going forward, he needs to learn or needs to work on being a bigger influence in games for longer periods. I think as an impact player, he could be brilliant. He could be absolutely brilliant, and I'm excited to see that go this weekend. and it could work out really well for Wales with him. I assume the plan would be for him to come on for Wainwright and Wainwright to shift to 6 and Mann to
So
come off.
him, yeah,
Yeah,
put him off Man, yeah.
that's what I would assume would be the obvious change, just because Mann seems to be tiring towards the end of games at the moment, which is understandable from a young kid at international level after playing 10 or something in regional games. But yeah, I think Mackenzie's he's clearly a hot prospect, and having gone through what 5-10 years or more of just saying, well, Faletau, and if not Faletau, then who? God help us. Now you've got Wainwright, and behind Wainwright you've got Morgan Mawson, Mackenzie Martin snapping at his heels. That's not too bad at all, is it? And Faletau still, well, when he comes back, I'm sure will be strutting his stuff and proving that he is, as ever, world class.
I mean, there's also an option of it just being a straight swap between Martin and Mann. So he did pack down at 6 for Cardiff when Ben Doll came on. Personally, I'd rather see the 8. I think that explosive carrying would be much better suited. And Wainwright shown that he's got, he can adapt to the work rate that Gatland wants from his 6, and just tackling everything that moves. So just quickly run through the whole Cardiff team as a whole. Starting with the pack, we've got Gareth Thomas, Elliot D, Kieran Nazarati, David Jenkins, captain, Adam Beard, Mann, Raffle Wainwright, then Thomas, Sam Stello, who comes straight back in for Johan Lloyd, moves to the bench, Rio Dyer, Tompkins, North, Josh Adams, Cam Winnop. Then bench is Elias Domachowski, Dylan Lewis comes in for the injured Archie Griffin, Will Rowlands, as we said, Mackenzie Martin's in for Basham, and then we've got Hardy, Lloyd, and Mason Grady. So, what do we think that's a team that can beat Ireland, or at the very least, is that a team more? I think more accurately, because I think we both have the similar answer to whether or not we can beat Ireland. But is that a team that can have a good performance against Ireland?
Oh, my pregnant pause is not helping this, is it? I'll answer it in a different way. This is going to be a political answer almost. I think there aren't many changes I'd make to that side. I'd have maybe debated bringing Will Rowlands back purely for his bulk. I'd have maybe debated giving Mason Grady a turn on the wing, because I don't think Josh has had his best 2 games in Waleshire. But apart from that, I think it's much for muchness. The thing is, I just think this Ireland side are so strong that what is a good performance? Is a good performance performing better than Italy did? Then yeah, I think there's hope to do that, and offering more of a threat than Italy did, because Italy didn't offer a single threat really in that, that 36-0. It might as well be -10 for Italy, because they didn't lay a glove on Ireland throughout that game, I felt. But I just this Ireland side is a juggernaut at the moment. The loss of Keenan is huge for them. Frawley's a brilliant footballer and all that jazz, but Keenan is, in my opinion, the best fullback in the world. And I was actually gutted to see that he wasn't playing, because I just love watching him play, and I was gutted to see him go down against Italy. But if you can target Frawley, get a bit of joy out of that, that's probably one of the things I'd have tried. I would try putting Josh, Rio with his kick chase is brilliant, and George up against Frawley, try and win the aerial battle against Frawley. See if you can do that. As well against Calvin Nash, who isn't the biggest and is still inexperienced at international level. So putting a few aerial bombs on them. I think Johan's unlucky, but I'm not surprised to see Sam come back in at 10. I don't think anyone is. I think Sam is Gatland's man now going forward for a bit, and unless Johan can prove otherwise, or Sam can prove otherwise, that Gatland's going to stick with him for a little while at least. So yeah, I just look at the Ireland side, and you look at that bench as well. They've gone a 6-2.
That scared of Mackenzie Martin, they've had to put 2 extra back rowers in on the bench.
No.
It makes me feel better.
I'd love to agree, but I just look at that bench. And you've got, in fairness, it's a bench that shows that they're respecting Wales, because it's a bench that says, right, we've got players to close out the game if it's tight. You've got McCluskey, you've got Connor, and then you've got your Beard-Ryan combination with Conan, which is a closing out the game. You know, you've got your game sorted. If it's close going into the death, I still back Ireland because they've got the bench to see it out. I just hope that Wales can be in a position where they're in the game after 50-60. That's the main thing, I think, and that'll be a performance. I worry if things go pear-shaped early on, it could be a really long day, because if Wales try and throw the ball around as they did against Scotland in the last 30 minutes against Ireland, I think it's not going to work, and I think it could be a really painful day. So it's about being disciplined in that first 50 just to stay in it, stay in the fight. I'd love to say there's a brand of rugby that I can see beating this Ireland side, but I just can't see it at the moment.
I mean, other people have pointed out, but really, like their weakest point really is potentially the scrum. Benji brought it, and even then, that's down to referee interpretation. I don't think we've got the pack that can paint the picture to dominate. Kicking game, if you try and kick long to them, they'll do what they did against France, and James Lowe will thunder twat it 80 metres, and we're buggered. Because I don't think we will not win a long distance kicking battle. We don't have the kickers. We don't have anyone that big a boots. Costello and Johan Lloyd are very good attacking kicking. You know, their attacking kicking is excellent. They've brilliant crossfield bombs, very good with the dinks over the top. But long distance kicking is not their forte.
Yeah.
And so again, contestables we might have a chance. I think, we've got to really slow down their ball at, try and just, even if it's just throwing Dav Jenkins or Adam Beard up at the front in every line out, just to try and give them a moment of hesitation, just to try and slow down that initial phase every time. And, Tommy Reffell's going to have a 10 out of 10 game, because we need to stop that juggernaut at source and at breakdowns, and try and give Jameson Gibson Park as uncomfortable a time as possible. However, that is easier said than done. If any team is loving the fact that referees are favouring the attacking side more than the defending side, and at breakdowns now, it's Ireland.
Yeah, the Tommy thing, I think I know I bang this from every blimmin' week, but I think Ireland will have a plan to deal with Tommy, so I wouldn't be surprised. Pardon?
Yeah, I said, yeah, they definitely will.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they put two men on him just to clear him out. Palm will probably be on him, maybe Van der Veer as well. Probably Doris will do a bit as well. So therefore, it leaves you to what you do then, and there needs to be another player, an Elliot D, a Domachowski, or Gareth Thomas, or someone to step up and say, right, okay, if he's taken out, how can I impact the turnover and slow the ball down? So hopefully they can do that and act in pods of three in tackles. So you've got your double man tackle, your third over the ball, but it isn't just always Tommy as your third. There has to be another option as a third player, whether that be a man, be an Alex Mann, or be a Wainwright, or be an Elliot D to impact on the opposition ball.
It's one of those moments where you almost miss Liam Williams because he was so good at getting over the ball.
Yeah.
I said, are we sure De Beer hasn't got a Welsh granny? I'm not saying necessarily at 10, just hide him somewhere on the pitch and he can just get over the ball and then just quickly hide his cone. Oh, Sim Costello, brilliant, mate. But I think you're right. I mean, having just one out and out jackal threat isn't going to be heck. But I mean, the Gatland size. 2 seconds. Gatland signs have been great at slowing down ball without necessarily being classic over the ball and with tackle selection. Adam Beard's fantastic at that, actually. His tackle selection is usually excellent. It's very really dominant hits. We do make the least dominant tackles in the Six Nations. I also don't think our defence necessarily wants dominant shots. Dominant shots do help. That granted, in sending momentum, but this current defence in the Mike Forshore is almost aggressive in the face to try and cut off options, but then the tackler always want to try and isolate the ball carrier and let him pass so you can get over, which is quite a risky strategy, admittedly. But that is how we're going. They've worked out we probably don't have the physical specimens to make dominant shots, so we do it in a different way. Or there's a lot of attempted choke tackles are going for rips, which naturally you end up in a more passive position when you're attempting them.
Yeah. The one other thing I would say about defensive line is the defensive line from kicks needs to be so much better going into this week. If Keenan was playing, he'd have had a field day with the defensive line in the first 2 weeks. So it needs to be. It's been aggressive. I've really liked the aggression. You watch Tompkins and he's flying up, and Watkin was flying up as well when he played against Scotland. But then there needs to be that coordination with your blindside winger. So it seems to be Rio's flying up, Tompkins is flying up, and then there's this massive dogleg in the midfield between your 7, your 10, or whoever's acting in that role. So that needs to be addressed, and hopefully it has been, because otherwise, Ireland are going to pick holes through that, and Doris will pick holes through that. It'd be easy for him.
I mean, when you've got carriers as good as that, you really don't want to be giving them. And I said that, particularly against Scotland, our big issue was the kicks were just a bit too long, so there wasn't enough time for Dyer to get. By the time Dyer got to the catcher, the ball had already been passed. So I think, and I do think that was better against England, but it needs to be so much better again. I think that's pretty much all I want to say about that Wales game. So just go for predictions. I'll be honest, I'm not optimistic in the slightest. I think easily Ireland by 20 or 30.
Ireland by 20, yeah.
Any news from the Welsh Premiership?
Not major news. I'll run through the results from last weekend, which was obviously a loss for Cardiff. Cardiff against Pontypool 20-13. A bit of a stomach blew that for Cardiff, because a win would have seen them looking very comfortable in that top 4, but has probably put Pontypool back in it. And then on as well as that was Merthyr's loss on the Thursday night before at home to Newport. That was I was working on that one, and Newport just there was some really stupid bits of play from Merthyr. I got to be honest. There one particular challenge that I wasn't too happy with, that only garnered a yellow card from Locke. I thought that was a red card and was a poor piece of play, but there were other moments where they just gave Newport too much territory too easily, and Newport capitalised on fair play. The driving ball was very, very good. Hooker, whose name escapes me, I think could have scored about 5 at the end, but the tight end prop dived on the 5-metre line instead of the try line, so that didn't help things. But yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing one for Merthyr, because they got themselves in a position where they looked like they could challenge for the top 4, and I think that loss possibly has knocked the stomach out of them and maybe the wind out their sails a bit, to use 2 metaphors that were unnecessary. But yeah, the positions now, Cardiff 4th on 54 points, and then Pontypridd are 7th on 43 points. They both played 18 games. And then Merthyr are a further 4 points back on 39 points with 16 games. So they've got 2 games in hand. So really they are still in the fight. Just I think that loss was a bit of a tough one to take, because I think the performance wasn't what they'd have hoped for.
I see. I said, anything else you want to cover before we say goodbye?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's
The
things.
only other one is Gwalia Lightning are away to Glasgow this weekend. I haven't got the details, and then next weekend it will be a repeat of the first game of the season between Gwalia and Bristol Thunder to sort out the bottom half draw of the inaugural, the second season of the Celtic Challenge, but first in this multi-team, 2 teams per country format, which I mostly thought, other than the disappointment of Gwalia after their great start, I think this competition's gone quite well. I'd have liked a bit more communication from the WRU around it, but
I
especially when you see
think
how much especially when you see how much Glasgow and Edinburgh and the Wolfhounds and the Clovers are being constantly being tweeted by the Celtic Challenge. They're pushing, they're pushing, they're pushing constantly. And the WRU have basically put out a post saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, they're playing next weekend."
yeah,
They could do a little bit more.
I think the WRU have improved slightly in the last couple of weeks. That my main issue with this competition has been the lack of communication around the second half of this playoffs or whatever's been coming, because everyone thought it was going to be a playoff system, and then it's been quite unclear of how to finish off the season, how it was going to happen, and
Yeah, and now it's ended up with more league.
yeah, exactly. So to explain what is going on this weekend, Gwalia are playing Glasgow at 12:30 on Saturday, this Saturday, so the 24th. That's in the Kingspan. So that sort of explains the situation, that it's sort of neutral grounds, but it's a bit of a up in the air scenario.
But not everyone's in neutral grounds either. They've just picked random grounds for each of these games.
Yeah, I don't quite get how that's worked out, but that's my bugbear with it. But yeah, as a whole, in terms of producing players, it's clearly worked. You look at your Molly Reardons, you look at your Gwennon Hopkins, Manel Metcalfs, who've Nell's obviously had her opportunity in a Wales shirt before, but Gwennon and Molly especially. Molly was a scrum half a couple of years ago, and now she's playing hooker and in the Wales squad on the back of that as a hooker. So it's really worked wonders for a number of these girls, and that can't be stressed enough.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Excellent. I mean, it's doing its job. I think that's the important thing. The primary aim is to develop talent for Team Wales, and that's working. I would
Yeah,
like to see this competition move a bit more. I mean, maybe if we just have an away home and just go straight to a home and away. So, it's a 6-team league, so everyone gets 10 games, 5 home, 5 away.
yeah.
Maybe just do a playoff for the top 2 teams at the end. Just as something nice. But
It'll be interesting what they do next season. There's talk of expanding it further, but we've chatted about that before. Whether how far do you go with expanding is the question going forward.
I agree. I mean, I think we agree with great agree we had on the pod when we were talking about it, saying that at least for our perspectives of Welsh and Scottish, until we're getting to a point where they're all pro and we've got money and we're generating money to fund, probably for us at least keep it at the 2 teams.
Hmm.
And maybe just off up for an alternative kit.
Yeah,
Frankly, even if
yeah.
it's the same alternative kit for both, and you just change the badge,
Especially
like
in
just have a
the
plain white kit. That would solve all the problems, really.
especially in the narrative that we've had this week around color blindness and everything. There is
Yeah.
color blindness, but there is also kit clashes that shouldn't exist, and that's
Remember the Champions Cup? So after we won Challenge Cup in 2018, we played Glasgow, and we both had like
oh, it's
very
horrible.
grey kits, and then it was foggy.
Yeah,
And I'm convinced the reason we gave away a couple of intercepts because players thought they were on their side, because both teams were passing the ball to each other the other team, and you're like, yeah. Speaking of the thing, so obviously Six Nations. It's saying that happened last week, so we didn't really drop it. But Six Nations have dropped the precedent of the home team going to an alternate kit, which basically means now for this game, in theory, Wales should have to change, but our change kit is black with green accents, and then Ireland are playing green. And I'm not sure that necessarily helps. And then Ireland are very helpful with their alternate kit is just a pale green. One thing I would say is, so talking with people who watch before you could see colour on the TV. Wales or Ireland would one of them was forced to change their shorts into so they had a darker colour shorts, and that was how they distinguished. I don't see how that would be an issue. Like Wales playing red but put the black shorts on.
I don't know. I got to be honest, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way of rather the opposite of the condition, and rather the opposite. I'm bored of the narrative around it. I think it's something that should have been sorted years ago. Luckily now, well, not luckily at all. Fortunately for people that deal with this condition, deal with colour blindness, that is, it should be sorted next season where it become mandatory to change the kits. That'll also happen to be the same year where Wales will know how to have a deal with Macron, all this sort of thing. But it's just the same narrative every year. It's the same problem that happens every year, and surely it should have been solved by now. We're banging a stupid drum. It's 2024. Come on. That's basically. I'm really tired. This story came up in a professional capacity, and someone said to me about it, and I was just like, this should have been sorted years ago, and it's just a boring narrative to keep on having to say. And for the people that campaign for it must be really boring for them to keep on campaigning for it. And the flip side of that, which seems to be, it'd be nice to see these teams playing their home colours, and the Six Nations is the Six Nations because of the traditions. Well, you've got France playing against Scotland and changing their kits, and you've got Italy playing against Scotland changing the kits. So why can't Wales? Why can't Ireland? Come on, simple.
Absolutely. And I said, I mean, one option is the shorts, but yeah, because someone did point out that Wales quite often use green as an alternate colour, so we're gonna have to go back to that fluorescent yellow, I think.
Oh no, please no. Anything but that.
Sorry.
Oh, no, actually, no, not anything. Anything but that and grey. The light grey needs to go. That was a disaster.
I have a light grey training top from a couple of years ago. That's lovely because it's a training top.
Yeah.
But playing in is just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, where we've just ended up chuckling to ourselves more than anything. Thank you all for listening. Just a reminder, please do like and subscribe to the podcast. Also check out our YouTube. Check out the Rap YouTube channel. So we're trying to push up those subscribers up to. So we're currently on 156. We're aiming for 200. Lots of stuff. So obviously you can see our wonderful faces on the podcast, plus all the other guys. You can see Carwyn again on the Welsh pod. I don't know if the closed captions translate to English for those who want to learn. But also we've got extra videos. So there's match reactions, team reactions. We've had the try-like videos out. Now, hopefully we're going to be doing a lot more in terms of clips and stuff as time goes on. Lee's spoken a bit about on the main pod. So watch that space. So yeah, once again, please like, subscribe, leave a review, drop a message to all our socials. So all I have to say is thank you again, Carwyn. Ta-ra.
Thank you for listening to the Cardiff Central podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.